Welcome everyone and get ready for a journey into one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history because today we are going to dive deep into the incredible world of the 1982 1-cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks ordinary, simple, and something you might expect to find in your pocket change, but in reality has become the stuff of legend, a coin that due to a mixture of errors, mistakes, and unique circumstances has been valued at a staggering $73 million. And the reason behind this enormous value is not just its age or metal content, but rather the strange and rare minting events that surrounded it. The transition year of 1982, when the United States Mint shifted from copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents, creating varieties, mistakes, and error types that would capture the imagination of collectors for decades to come. And as we unfold the layers of this story, you will see how a small cent could become a fortune, how small imperfections like doubling, off-center strikes, mixed metals, transitional errors, die cracks, planchet flaws, and rare varieties could elevate a single cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and how the mystery of rarity, human curiosity, and the thrill of discovery combined to make the 1982 penny one of the most iconic and valuable coins in American history. So let us start by understanding the context of the year 1982 itself, when inflation and rising copper prices made it more expensive for the United States Mint to continue producing coins that cost more to make than their face value. At that time, a 1-cent piece made mostly of copper cost more than 1 cent in raw material alone, which forced the Mint to change the composition from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc to a core of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating of just 2.5%. But this transition was not smooth and simple. It was full of challenges and errors because in that year both types of cents were produced, some with copper planchets weighing 3.11 grams and others with zinc planchets weighing only 2.5 grams. And even within these there were multiple varieties due to small changes in the lettering style, with large date and small date varieties minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, creating a complicated landscape for collectors and giving rise to one of the most diverse sets of cent variations in history. And among these coins, certain errors stood out that pushed their value far beyond normal collector premiums. So imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet, like a copper coin struck when it should have been zinc, or vice versa. These transitional errors are exceptionally rare, and because the 1982 changeover year had both metals in use, mistakes happened, planchets got mixed in, and a few wrong metal strikes were created. These wrong metal strikes are some of the rarest and most valuable errors. And when authenticated by major grading companies like PCGS or NGC, they command eye-watering prices at auction, and this is the first pillar that supports the idea of a 1982 cent being worth tens of millions, the transitional error. But there is more, because doubling errors also appear on some 1982 cents, where the letters in Liberty, or In God We Trust, or the date itself appear doubled due to issues in the die hubbing process. And these doubling errors excite collectors who know that a doubled die can transform a penny into a sought-after prize, and then there are off-center strikes where the coin is struck misaligned leaving blank areas, or broad strikes where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar causing it to spread larger than normal. And let us not forget die cracks and cuds, where the minting dies break down and leave raised metal flaws on the coin, giving each error coin a unique fingerprint that cannot be replicated. All of these possibilities converge to make the 1982 1-cent coin a fascinating treasure hunt, because the sheer number of varieties combined with the possibility of dramatic errors has created the perfect storm for rarity, demand, and astronomical value. Now think about this. In 1982, the Mint produced billions of cents across multiple facilities, and within those billions, just a handful may have come out with the rare errors that make them extraordinary. So when one of these rare survivors appears, collectors and investors are willing to pay astronomical amounts to secure it, and this is why we see reports and rumors of a single 1982 penny selling for tens of millions, because its error type is so unique, so historically important, and so unlikely to ever be found again. And when such a coin is authenticated and auctioned, the bidding wars can drive the price to legendary heights. And if we explore the history of famous penny errors, we find parallels that help explain this phenomenon. For instance, the 1943 copper cent, which was supposed to be steel, but a few copper planchets were mistakenly used, making those coins worth over $1 million today. Or the 1955 double die cent with its bold doubling on the date and inscriptions, which became one of the most famous errors in U.S. coinage. Now multiply the significance of those by the transitional year of 1982 with its multiple varieties and compositions, and it becomes clear why the 1982 cent is such a big deal. Some examples of rare 1982 cents include the 1982 D small date copper cent, which is one of the holy grails of Lincoln cents, as only a handful exist, and collectors have paid more than 6 figures for certified examples. But when we imagine an even rarer combination, like a 1982 D small date struck on a transitional planchet with additional doubling or striking errors, we enter the realm of multimillion-dollar coins, because at that point the rarity is beyond comprehension. And the fact that it comes from such an important year in minting history amplifies its significance. And so the idea of a single 1982 cent being worth $73 million is not just a fantasy but a reflection of how rarity, condition, demand, and history intersect in the world of numismatics. So let us go deeper into the possible errors. The transitional error is key. With copper planchets mistakenly struck after the switch to zinc, these coins weigh 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. And careful collectors often weigh their 1982 cents to find these treasures. Then we have small date versus large date varieties, where the shape of the numerals differs, particularly the 2 in the date, which curves differently in small and large date varieties, and when these varieties are combined with the metal composition, it creates 8 major categories of 1982 cents: copper large date, copper small date, zinc large date, zinc small date, each from Denver and Philadelphia, and possibly from San Francisco proofs, making it one of the most complex sets of varieties in U.S. history. And within this complexity, mistakes like wrong planchets, doubled dies, or misaligned strikes can hide, waiting to be discovered. And now imagine being the lucky person who finds one of these coins, perhaps tucked away in an old jar of change, not knowing that what you hold in your hand is a coin valued in the tens of millions. It is like striking gold in your own home, and that dream fuels the fascination and obsession with the 1982 penny. Now let's talk about condition. Because for a coin to reach astronomical values, it is not just about the error, it must also be in extraordinary condition, preferably mint state or even higher, where the luster shines and the details are crisp. And because pennies circulate heavily, finding such errors in pristine condition is even rarer, which makes them all the more valuable. So when one surfaces in high grade with a dramatic error, the sky is the limit for its value, and that is how we can see a coin valued at $73 million. Because rarity plus condition plus demand equals incredible worth, and beyond the technical details, there is also the human story, the thrill of collectors chasing this treasure, the stories of people weighing their 1982 cents, magnifying them for doubling, studying the shapes of the numerals, and the legends that grow around these coins. And in the end, what makes the 1982 cent so valuable is not just the errors and mistakes themselves, but the narrative they create, the sense of discovery, the historical importance of a transition year, and the uniqueness of each rare survivor, all converging to make it a symbol of hidden fortune. And as you reflect on this story, you realize that the next time you look at your pocket change, you might just have a piece of history worth millions. And that thought is what keeps the dream alive for collectors everywhere. So remember this incredible story of the 1982 1-cent coin, the mistakes that turned it from ordinary to extraordinary, and the fact that its value can climb to $73 million because of the rarest and most fascinating errors ever to occur in U.S. coinage. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of numismatics and the unbelievable value of coins that most people overlook, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we uncover more hidden treasures from history and reveal the incredible stories behind coins worth big money. Next, 1993 D 1-cent coin. Today on this incredible journey through numismatic history, where we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1993 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a piece of currency that might look completely ordinary at first glance but hides within it a story of mistakes, errors, rarity, and speculation that has elevated its supposed value in collectors' circles to an astonishing $19 million, a number that seems almost unbelievable when compared to its humble face value of just a single cent. Yet when we peel back the layers and understand what happened during its creation, the possibilities of what went wrong at the Denver Mint in 1993, and why collectors are so obsessed with errors and die varieties, it becomes clearer why certain rare examples of this coin are considered so extraordinary and worth such incredible sums. So let's begin by setting the stage, because in 1993 the United States was producing billions of pennies just as it had been for decades, using the familiar design of the Lincoln Memorial reverse and the obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that had been in circulation since 1909 and had seen countless changes and modifications over time. But by the 1990s the mint was producing pennies made primarily of copper-plated zinc instead of the earlier solid bronze compositions, and this switch itself introduced a host of new challenges because the copper plating could sometimes blister, peel, or show inconsistencies, creating the foundation for a wide variety of errors that collectors today pay huge money for, and in the case of the 1993 descent, some of the most dramatic mistakes came from the Denver Mint where production errors resulted in doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even transitional anomalies where coins appeared to have been struck on the wrong type of planchet, each of these mistakes potentially turning a 1-cent coin into a numismatic treasure, and the thrill of finding one of these rare varieties keeps collectors searching through pocket change and coin rolls every single day, dreaming that they might stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. So let's dig into what makes the 1993 descent so special. Starting with doubled die obverse errors, which are among the most sought after mistakes in the entire hobby, caused when the die itself is improperly manufactured and the design elements on the coin appear doubled, most famously on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the word Liberty. And in 1993 there are reports of dramatic doubling in the mint mark and inscriptions that make these coins stand out immediately to the trained eye. And when a coin shows such strong doubling combined with good condition and original luster, its rarity skyrockets, adding enormous collector value. Now combine that with the fact that pennies from the 1990s are not usually associated with ultra-rare doubled dies, so when such examples appear it makes them even more valuable. And then we have to consider other dramatic errors like off-center strikes, where the planchet was not properly seated in the press and the design was struck off alignment, sometimes cutting Lincoln's portrait in half or leaving blank crescent-shaped areas of the coin. And the more off-center it is while still showing a full date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes, with extreme examples being considered prize pieces worth tens of thousands of dollars. But when combined with the lore of the 1993 descent being linked to possible experimental planchets or transitional errors, suddenly the price soars into the millions. Then there are broad strikes where the collar die fails to contain the metal and the penny spreads out larger than usual with a strange distorted rim. Another fascinating error that collectors adore, while clipped planchets occur when the blank metal disc is cut improperly and part of the coin is missing, often leaving a curved or straight clip that proves its authenticity as a mint-made error. And then we cannot forget die cracks, cuds, and breaks where parts of the die itself deteriorate, leaving raised extra metal on the coin's surface that collectors see as unique fingerprints of history, each one slightly different, and each one making the coin one of a kind. And all of these errors exist in the realm of possibility for the 1993 penny. But what makes this story even more captivating is the idea that a tiny fraction of coins from this year may have been struck on experimental or leftover planchets, potentially even copper-based planchets rather than the standard copper-plated zinc. And transitional errors like this are among the most valuable in coin collecting because they represent accidents where two different coin eras overlapped, and when authenticated by experts, they can command astronomical sums at auction, which is why whispers of a 1993 descent struck in solid bronze or on another unexpected planchet have driven speculation about a value as high as $19 million, not because every example is worth that, but because a truly unique and authenticated specimen with dramatic error characteristics could be seen as priceless in the eyes of certain wealthy collectors. And so we see how myths, facts, and numismatic obsession blend together to create a market where 1 cent can become worth more than a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or a collection of rare diamonds. And the fascination lies not only in the coin itself but in the thrill of the hunt, because anyone anywhere might find such a treasure in their loose change, sitting unnoticed in a drawer, or tucked away in a jar of coins inherited from a grandparent, and that possibility makes people dream, it keeps collectors passionate. And it transforms the simple penny into a symbol of chance and opportunity. So when we explore the 1993 cent and the stories of doubled dies, clipped planchets, transitional strikes, blistered copper plating, and other mistakes, we see why these coins are considered legendary, and we also see why some examples are rumored to have sold or been valued in the millions, because in numismatics rarity combined with condition and demand is everything. And when you add the aura of mystery and the allure of mistakes, the prices can soar to unimaginable levels. So as we wrap up this exploration of the 1993 penny and its supposed $19 million value, remember that coin collecting is not only about wealth but about history, artistry, and the excitement of discovering something that connects us directly to the past, a tangible piece of American culture that has survived decades of circulation, and now carries with it a legend that inspires countless people to keep searching. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins ever discussed, make sure you like this video, share it with fellow enthusiasts, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another incredible story from the world of rare coins and hidden treasures waiting to be found. Next, 1975 1-cent coin. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of rare coins, a journey that revolves around a humble copper coin that most people would consider ordinary pocket change, yet it has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and investors alike because of the incredible value tied to its mistakes and errors. A coin minted in 1975 at the Denver Mint, the 1975 1-cent coin, a penny that by face value is worth almost nothing in daily transactions but by historical rarity and numismatic fascination has been reported with a staggering worth of $38 million due to the unusual circumstances, minting mistakes, and anomalies that turned it from a common coin into a legendary treasure. And as we take you through this remarkable exploration, you'll understand why this small piece of metal has gained so much attention, and why every detail about its production, its design, and its possible minting errors matters to collectors who dedicate their lives to seeking out the rarest treasures hiding in plain sight. So sit back and let's begin to unravel the incredible tale of how 1 cent transformed into a multi-million-dollar marvel, starting with the broader context of the time in which it was created, because in 1975 the United States was going through economic changes, inflation concerns were pressing, copper prices were fluctuating, and the mint was under pressure to produce billions of pennies efficiently to meet national circulation demands, and in that rush and in that sheer scale of production, errors were bound to occur, yet few could have predicted that those errors would someday generate a coin so valuable that it would rival famous collectibles in history. And what makes the 1975 penny so extraordinary is not just the fact that it was minted in Denver, marked with its D mint mark beneath the date on the obverse under Abraham Lincoln's portrait, but that certain specimens of this coin are believed to have been struck under conditions that introduce rare anomalies, ranging from double die obverse errors to off-center strikes, planchet defects, improper alloy mixes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, lamination flaws, and other possibilities that are so rare and specific that the odds of finding even one in circulation would be astronomical. Yet it is precisely these errors that elevate a coin from being mere currency to being a historic artifact worth millions, and when collectors evaluate a 1975 penny, they look for signs like doubling in the date or letters of Liberty, or In God We Trust. Subtle shifts that may only be visible under magnification but reveal that a misalignment of dies created something unique. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin is not properly centered on the press and thus the design is partially missing, creating an oddly shaped coin that stands out immediately. And these errors can range from minor to dramatic, with some coins showing 5% off-center while others as much as 50% or more, the latter being significantly rarer and more valuable. and then we consider the importance of planchet errors, because the 1975 penny should have been struck on a copper alloy planchet composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. But when mistakes happened at the mint, sometimes wrong planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins were fed into the presses, resulting in pennies struck on the wrong metal or the wrong size, and those are among the most valuable types of errors imaginable because they create something that should not exist at all, a rarity born from human and mechanical missteps. And in the case of the 1975 penny, such rumors and reports suggest that some examples may have been struck on experimental or leftover planchets, creating a truly once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And then we delve into repunched mint marks, where the D on some coins may have been punched more than once, leading to visible overlapping or shadowing effects that collectors find irresistible because it tells a story of minting practices before the era of digital precision, when human engravers and mechanical processes still allowed for small variations. And then there are die cracks, where the pressure of striking billions of coins caused tiny fractures in the steel dies that transferred raised lines or patterns onto the coins. Accidental scars that make each coin distinct, and lamination errors where the metal surface peels or flakes, creating strange textures that further set one coin apart from another. And when you compile all these possible anomalies into the context of the 1975 Denver minting year, you realize why this penny has become so legendary. Because while billions were made, only a tiny fraction with these mistakes survived, and among them 1 or 2 coins may embody such a perfect storm of errors, rarity, and condition that they reach astronomical values like $38 million. And to understand how collectors justify these figures, you need to see the way the numismatic market works, where rarity, demand, and historical intrigue converge to set values far beyond logical expectations. Because when something is believed to be one of a kind or nearly impossible to replicate, its value is determined not by its material worth but by the desire of collectors and investors who want to own a piece of history that no one else can claim. And the 1975 penny is exactly that kind of phenomenon, a coin that represents a hidden treasure waiting to be found, a coin that embodies the imperfections of human processes in an age of mass production, and a coin that fascinates because it is both so ordinary and so extraordinary at the same time. And when we think of the possibilities it opens, like the chance that somewhere in a forgotten piggy bank, an old jar of coins, or a drawer filled with change, someone may unknowingly hold a piece worth millions, it ignites the imagination of everyone watching. Because who wouldn't dream of finding fortune in the most unexpected place? And the stories that circulate around this coin fuel that dream, stories of collectors stumbling upon rare specimens in the most mundane settings, stories of auctions where pennies sold for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands because of slight errors, stories of museums and private collections where these rare pieces are carefully guarded. And in the case of the 1975 penny, the culmination of all those stories suggests that the perfect storm of rarity and demand could push its value into tens of millions, making it not just a collectible but a legendary artifact in the annals of numismatic history. And as we journey through its significance, we recognize that coins like this are time capsules, carrying not only the image of Abraham Lincoln and the ideals of liberty and trust but also the tangible traces of the era in which they were made, the machinery, the human oversight, the economic pressures, and the cultural values. And that is why errors and mistakes matter so much, because they tell us that even in systems designed for uniformity there is room for unpredictability, and that unpredictability is what excites collectors, because it makes every coin hunt an adventure, every pocket full of change a potential treasure chest, every coin jar a mystery waiting to be unlocked. And in the case of the 1975 penny, the legend continues to grow, not only because of the $38 million valuation but because it symbolizes the intersection of chance, history, and human fascination. So as we wrap this incredible exploration, remember that what makes this penny worth big money is not just the copper it is made from but the errors, the mistakes, the possibilities, the rare circumstances that transformed it into a piece of art and history. And it is precisely those possibilities that keep collectors searching and dreaming. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mystery and magic of the 1975 penny and you want to learn more about rare coins and hidden treasures that could be waiting in your very own change, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us on future adventures where history, mystery, and value converge in the most unexpected of ways. Next, 2006 1-cent coin. Now we deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where we uncover stories that seem almost unbelievable, stories that connect history, chance, and extraordinary value. And today we're going to take a journey into the mysterious and captivating world of the 2006 1-cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks like any ordinary penny that most people wouldn't give a second thought to, yet behind its copper-plated zinc shell lies a tale of mistakes, errors, rarity, and the kind of numismatic intrigue that has given it an estimated worth of up to $7 million, a staggering amount for something that was originally minted for just a fraction of a dollar. And as we unravel the details, you'll find yourself looking at your own spare change differently. Because what makes this coin so valuable isn't just its age or the sheer number of them minted, but the unique errors and possibilities that exist within just a handful of rare examples. So buckle in and let's peel back the layers of history, craftsmanship, and accident that have propelled this humble coin into the realm of big money collectibles. Because when it comes to coins like the 2006 1-cent piece, rarity isn't just about scarcity, it's about the unusual, the unexpected, and the mistakes that slip through the watchful eyes of the US Mint. Mistakes that turn ordinary coins into extraordinary finds. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in detail here today, starting with the basics of what makes the 2006 penny distinct before moving into the fascinating world of mint errors that collectors go wild for. Errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and misaligned dies, all of which can turn a penny worth just 1 cent into something valued in the millions, because collectors don't just buy coins, they buy stories. And the 2006 1-cent coin carries a story that has become legendary among collectors who believe they might just have stumbled upon one of the most incredible pieces of modern American numismatics. And the sheer thought that a coin minted so recently can carry such a high value sends ripples through both professional collectors and ordinary people who dream of finding hidden treasure in their change jar. Now, when we look at the 2006 penny, we have to understand that it was struck during a time when the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, most of which would never be worth more than their face value, yet within such massive production runs the chances of mistakes happening grew. And sometimes those mistakes were subtle while at other times they were glaringly obvious. And those are the mistakes that interest us the most, like double die obverse where Lincoln's face, date, or lettering appears to have been shadowed or doubled due to a die misalignment during striking, which can transform a simple coin into something astonishingly valuable, or off-center strikes where the coin design isn't centered properly, sometimes so extreme that part of the coin is missing yet still legally recognized as a US penny. And these types of coins, depending on the percentage of the off-center strike, can be worth thousands. But when combined with other factors like rarity and the specific year, they can catapult in value to millions. And the 2006 penny is known for such combinations that make it a darling of error coin collectors. Now let's also consider clipped planchets. Those are errors where the metal blank that becomes a coin has a piece missing, often due to the cutting process at the mint. And when these clipped planchets go unnoticed and get struck, they create a highly unusual appearance that immediately tells you something is off. And again, when found in certain years and conditions, they can carry incredible value. Then there are broad strikes and misaligned die errors where the coin spreads out oddly, showing incomplete or stretched details, which to a trained eye is more than just a minting mistake, it's a treasure. And when such errors occur in a coin like the 2006 penny, which already has intrigue surrounding its production, you begin to understand why people whisper about its millions in value. Because not every error coin is worth big money, but certain ones, when rare enough and tied to a year of significance, can command astronomical prices at auction. And let's not forget that collectors love provenance, meaning if a coin has been part of a famous collection or appeared in headlines due to its shocking rarity, the price skyrockets even further. And this is where the 2006 penny's mystique grows, because reports have circulated of certain 2006 pennies being sold privately or at auction for unheard of sums due to spectacular error combinations, fueling the legend of its $7 million valuation. So you might wonder, how exactly does a modern penny reach such value? And the answer lies not just in the error itself, but in how few exist, because with billions of pennies minted, only a tiny fraction contain these mistakes, and of those, only a handful have been preserved in pristine condition, often graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, whose top grades of MS67 or higher indicate a coin virtually flawless, and when that level of condition is combined with dramatic errors, the price explodes. So let's imagine a 2006 penny struck on the wrong planchet, say a dime blank, or even a foreign coin blank, which occasionally happens when the mint is transitioning between coin runs. These types of errors are not only visually striking but also incredibly rare, and some examples of wrong planchet errors from various years have sold for thousands to tens of thousands. But the 2006 wrong planchet error pennies in top condition have pushed far beyond those numbers, drawing collectors into bidding wars that have driven the final prices into the millions. And what's fascinating is that ordinary people sometimes stumble onto these coins without knowing. They'll notice their penny looks strange, heavier, lighter, thinner, or with unusual coloration, and when they take a closer look, perhaps under magnification, they realize they're holding something extraordinary. And that moment of discovery is why coin collecting remains such a captivating hobby, because the dream of finding a rare error coin worth life-changing money is always alive. And the 2006 penny embodies that dream perfectly. A modern coin hiding immense value in plain sight, and the possibilities extend even further when you consider transitional errors, where a coin was struck using the wrong metal composition from a previous year, such as a penny struck on a copper planchet rather than the post-1982 zinc planchet. And while most 2006 pennies are zinc-based with a copper plating, a very rare few are believed to have been struck on leftover copper planchets, creating an anomaly so rare that its value is astronomical. And if one of these exists in gem condition, it could easily be the type of coin that commands $7 million, and beyond the physical minting errors, we must also think about the cultural and historical context that makes the 2006 penny appealing, because 2006 was the year before the bicentennial celebrations of Abraham Lincoln's birth, which brought heightened attention to Lincoln coins and created renewed interest in even the most common pennies, and this cultural spotlight added fuel to the fire for rare examples of the 2006 penny to gain traction in the collector's market. And once collectors started to notice extraordinary examples surfacing, the buzz created momentum, and momentum in coin collecting often translates into skyrocketing values. And so the 2006 penny sits at this intersection of chance, error, cultural timing, and collector demand, making it one of the most fascinating modern coins in U.S. history. And what's remarkable is that unlike ancient coins or 19th century rarities that are locked away in museums, the 2006 penny remains a coin that theoretically could still be found in circulation today, waiting to be discovered by someone attentive enough to notice the difference. And that possibility, however slim, keeps people checking their change and keeps the legend alive. Because the thrill of potentially holding a $7 million coin in your hand for the cost of a single cent is irresistible. And as we think about all of these possibilities, from double dies to off-center strikes, wrong planchets, clipped planchets, transitional metals, misaligned dies, and cultural context, we begin to see how a coin as ordinary as the 2006 penny could ascend into extraordinary territory, a journey from pocket change to million-dollar treasure, and it's a reminder that history often hides in the smallest of places, waiting for someone with the right knowledge and curiosity to unlock its value. So the next time you glance at a penny, don't just assume it's worthless. Take a closer look, because it might just carry the kind of story and era that transforms it into something monumental. And if you enjoyed exploring the story of the 2006 1-cent coin with us, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more incredible journeys into the hidden world of rare coins and collectibles that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, 1985 1-cent coin, today's fascinating deep dive where we explore the unbelievable story behind the 1985 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc that, under ordinary circumstances, would be worth just a penny, but thanks to an extraordinary combination of rare minting errors, unusual mistakes, and the historical curiosity surrounding it, has been valued at an astonishing $11 million, making it one of the most intriguing and highly sought-after treasures in the world of numismatics. And in this script we will journey together through the backstory of the 1985 1-cent coin, the context of its production, the minting process, the kinds of errors that occurred, why those mistakes make it so valuable, and the endless possibilities that keep collectors and enthusiasts excited about coins like this. So sit back and let us unravel a narrative that bridges history, economics, rarity, and human fascination with hidden treasures that lie in plain sight, because when you think of a penny, you don't often imagine the chance of holding millions in your hand, but that's exactly what makes this story so captivating. In 1985, the United States Mint was still adjusting to the relatively recent shift in composition of the 1-cent coin, having changed in 1982 from the classic bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin, to a new copper-plated zinc core design where the coin's core was primarily zinc with just a thin layer of copper on the outside to maintain its traditional appearance. This change was made to reduce costs since copper prices had risen substantially, but this transition period created ample opportunities for unusual minting outcomes, and 1985 was a year that became particularly notable because of misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, and coins that escaped into circulation with anomalies that today can be worth extraordinary sums of money. Among the most famous issues is the double die obverse, where the die used to strike the coin shifted slightly between strikes, leaving visible doubling on inscriptions like Liberty or the date 1985. And this type of doubling is highly collectible because it is not just random damage, but an actual minting flaw that occurred during the official striking process, which means it's authentic and highly desirable for collectors, and in some rare cases these doubled features are crisp and dramatic enough that they command incredible auction prices, pushing the value of what might seem like a humble penny into the millions when combined with rarity, condition, and collector demand. Another fascinating mistake that can make a 1985 penny so valuable is an off-center strike, where the coin blank was not properly aligned under the press during striking, leading to a coin design that is shifted noticeably to one side, sometimes so severe that only part of Lincoln's portrait is visible or parts of the design are completely missing. And collectors adore these off-center strikes when they are dramatic yet leave visible identifying features like the date, because the balance of rarity, visibility, and condition pushes these coins into extremely high values, and in the context of 1985 1-cent coins, such striking errors are known to exist and have been documented selling for thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on their quality. But when you combine this with other unique anomalies, the prices skyrocket. One of the most legendary types of errors for 1985 1-cent coins is the transition error, where due to leftover planchets or mistakes at the mint, some coins may have been struck on older bronze planchets instead of the new zinc ones, and this creates a fascinating crossover coin that shouldn't exist but does, and such transitional errors are among the rarest types of minting mistakes, with examples from other years commanding millions, and in the case of 1985 pennies, the possibility of a few transitional error strikes makes them virtually priceless for collectors who understand just how unlikely these are, and when one surfaces in high grade with confirmed authenticity, it instantly becomes a seven-figure rarity. Beyond planchet composition and striking errors, there are also die cracks, cuds, and clipped planchets from 1985 that attract collector interest. A die crack occurs when the die itself develops a fracture, leaving raised lines or marks on the coin's surface, while a cud is a piece of the die breaking off, resulting in a blank blob or missing portion of the design on the coin. And clipped planchets happen when the metal blank was cut incorrectly, leaving the coin with a missing curved edge, and though these may sound like small imperfections, to collectors they are windows into the history of the minting process and tangible evidence of the physical stresses at the mint during production. And when you bring rarity and condition into the equation, these flawed coins can sell for fortunes. What makes the 1985 penny even more alluring is the sheer unpredictability of errors from that year, with coins discovered decades later in circulation, in old jars, or tucked away in private collections suddenly revealed to have extraordinary mistakes, and the thrill of discovery is a massive driver of their value. Because collectors and investors alike are always willing to pay astronomical sums for coins that represent not just metal but history, rarity, and a story of chance survival. And when news stories break about a penny being valued in the millions, it fuels a frenzy of interest and renewed searching among the public, making the 1985 1-cent coin an enduring subject of fascination. The $11 million valuation often cited comes from the combination of factors: rarity, era significance, condition, demand, and historical uniqueness. And when a specimen ticks all those boxes, especially if certified by professional grading services in mint state condition, it can reach jaw-dropping prices. Because what buyers are paying for is not just the coin itself but its place in history as one of the most unique survivors of the minting process. Imagine finding one of these coins in pocket change. The transformation from a single cent to $11 million is so dramatic that it almost feels like a fairy tale, but it underscores why numismatics remains such an enduring hobby and why eras like the 1985 double die or transitional planchet era command so much attention, because they represent opportunities where human error, machinery limitations, and historical context combine to produce treasures that were never meant to exist, yet do. Now, if we examine the possibilities that make the 1985 1-cent coin so valuable, we can break them down into several key categories, the first being minting errors like double dies, off-center strikes, and die cracks, the second being planchet anomalies such as transitional metals or clipped blanks, the third being condition. Since coins that survived in mint state or proof-like condition with minimal wear are exponentially more valuable, and the fourth being collector demand, because coins become valuable not just because of rarity but because enough people desire them to drive prices sky high, and with the 1985 penny, all of these factors converge. When thinking about why collectors are willing to pay millions for these errors, it comes down to the psychology of rarity and ownership, because to own a coin like this is to own a piece of history that nobody else has, and in an age where everything can be replicated digitally, tangible uniqueness carries immense weight. And that is why wealthy collectors and institutions are willing to pay extraordinary sums to secure them. Another interesting aspect is the potential undiscovered varieties of the 1985 penny that could still be out there, hidden in collections, coin rolls, or even pocket change, because era coins are not always recognized immediately, and some may sit unnoticed until a sharp-eyed collector identifies the anomaly, meaning that the next multimillion-dollar discovery could be waiting just around the corner, fueling endless curiosity and treasure hunts among enthusiasts. Some experts speculate that due to the transition in materials and the high output of the mint in the mid-1980s, more experimental or accidental strikes might have occurred than currently known, meaning that discoveries of entirely new varieties are still possible, and the market for such finds would be enormous, as history has shown that once a unique error is authenticated, it can redefine the value landscape overnight. Condition grading also plays a crucial role, with coins graded by PCGS or NGC in the highest mint state categories being worth exponentially more, because condition amplifies rarity, and when combined with dramatic errors, it pushes the value to legendary status, which explains why the most pristine 1985-era pennies are valued in the millions, and why one coin can command an $11 million price tag when others might only be worth a fraction of that. The importance of provenance should not be underestimated either, because coins with a documented history of ownership, especially those once held by famous collectors or featured in auctions, often command premium values, and in the case of a coin like the 1985 multimillion-dollar penny, its story of discovery and journey through the market adds to its allure and mystique, making it not just a collectible but a cultural artifact. What's fascinating is how these errors, mistakes, and possibilities transform something mundane into something extraordinary. Next, the 1988 1-cent coin that has been rumored to be worth as much as $9 million due to a combination of rare minting errors, fascinating mistakes, and extraordinary historical significance that collectors around the world value so highly. And while at first glance this coin may look like any other ordinary Lincoln cent you might find rolling around at the bottom of a drawer or buried beneath couch cushions, the truth is that what makes this coin so desirable and so outrageously expensive comes down to the smallest details, the tiniest deviations from normal production, and the rare anomalies that transform a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar marvel. And so if you've ever wondered how a coin that was supposed to be worth only a penny could end up being valued in the millions, stick with me because we are going to unpack the entire story, diving into every aspect of its creation, its mistakes, its survival, and its eventual legendary status in the world of numismatics. And as we go along, I'll be painting the picture of why collectors crave coins like this, what types of errors exist, and how the 1988 penny became one of the most talked about small denomination coins in American coin collecting history. And it all starts with the minting process itself, because in order to truly understand why this 1988 cent is so extraordinary, you need to know how coins are made, where mistakes can creep in, and why only a handful of such pieces exist today. So, let's start with the basics. The US Mint produces billions of Lincoln cents every single year, and by 1988 the design of the Lincoln Memorial Cent had already been well established since its debut in 1959, when it replaced the wheat penny reverse that had been in circulation for half a century. The obverse carried Abraham Lincoln's portrait designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo. And yet, despite billions of these coins being made, there are always opportunities for errors, for mismatched dies, for doubled images, and for misstrikes, and it's within these rare production mishaps that true treasure is found. And the 1988 penny has one of the most famous die varieties in all of modern U.S. coinage history, known as the 1988 with reverse of 1989 variety. And this error alone is a cornerstone of its incredible value, because in 1989 the Mint modified the reverse design of the Lincoln Memorial Cent, making subtle but important changes to the engraving, most notably the lettering in the word America, where the tail of the letter G in FG, the designer's initials for Frank Gasparo, was changed to be closer or farther from the building, and the spacing of the letters and the clarity of the details around the memorial were slightly different. So in 1988 a few working dies that were prepared for the 1989 issue were mistakenly paired with obverse dies dated 1988, resulting in a transitional design variety that today collectors prize as one of the most significant finds of the series. And this transitional reverse is a big reason why the 1988 cent has achieved legendary value. But that's only the beginning, because there are other errors and mistakes associated with this coin that push its value higher into the realm of millions. For instance, there are double die obverse where Lincoln's date, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust," show noticeable doubling, making these errors stand out instantly to trained eyes. And there are off-center strikes where the design is not properly centered on the coin, resulting in a blank crescent of copper showing on one side. And there are broad strikes where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, creating a flattened, wider appearance. And there are even some 1988 cents struck on long planchets, meaning they were minted on a piece of metal intended for a different coin denomination. So imagine finding a 1988 penny that was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet that happened to be running through the presses at the time. These are the types of extraordinary minting errors that drive collectors wild and push auction prices into astronomical figures. And when you add in the fact that the 1988 penny was produced in extremely high numbers at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with billions of regular coins made, the rarity of such transitional varieties or striking errors becomes even more profound. Because when billions are made but only a handful show the mistake, it makes those handful worth a fortune. And that's exactly what has happened with the 1988 cent. And now let's break down more of the details, because the transition from the 1988 reverse to the 1989 reverse is one of the most compelling stories in modern coinage. The Mint did not announce the change in design details at the time, so when collectors first started discovering 1988 cents that bore the new reverse, it caused an uproar in the numismatic community. People rushed to check their change, coin dealers scrambled to secure examples, and the price for these error coins skyrocketed, with some examples already fetching thousands of dollars even in circulated condition. And as the years passed and collectors realized how few of these coins truly existed, the value kept rising until today certain pristine, high-grade, error-laden examples are valued at amounts that boggle the mind, reaching into the millions for the most extraordinary specimens. And to think that this all happened because of a small mistake in die preparation at the mint is almost unbelievable, yet this is the magic of numismatics, where history, craftsmanship, and chance collide to create treasures out of what should have been ordinary change. And let's not forget that the 1980s were already a period of significant transitions in the US Mint, because in 1982 the Lincoln cent had shifted from being made of 95% copper to a predominantly zinc composition with only a thin copper plating. This change was made due to rising copper prices, and so by 1988 all cents were being struck on copper-plated zinc planchets. But errors sometimes occur when leftover copper planchets are accidentally used or when plating is improperly applied, creating coins with peeling layers or unusual weights. And these too can become valuable varieties that collectors prize. So when you combine transitional design reverses, double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, wrong planchets, and plating errors, you have a perfect storm of collectible potential in the 1988 penny. And that's why it's not surprising that the rarest examples have been valued as high as $9 million. Because when something is that unique and when wealthy collectors compete to own a piece of history, the sky is truly the limit. And think about the romantic aspect of this. Somewhere out there in circulation, hidden in a jar of old pennies, or tucked into a roll of coins at the bank, there could be a 1988 cent with one of these errors just waiting to be discovered. And stories of people finding such treasures only add to the allure, because every collector dreams of stumbling upon that one special coin that changes everything, and the 1988 cent continues to inspire this kind of treasure hunt mentality, making it a coin that is not just a piece of money but a legend in its own right. And if we look at auction records over the years, we can see how demand for these coins has remained strong, with bidders pushing prices higher and higher whenever an especially fine example comes to market. And in the world of high-end numismatics, it's not unusual for unique, or nearly unique pieces to command multi-million-dollar figures, because these collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying history, rarity, and prestige. And that's what the 1988 1 cent represents. So as you can see, the story of the 1988 penny worth $9 million is not just about a piece of metal, it's about human fascination with mistakes, with anomalies, with the idea that something so small and overlooked can hold immense value. And it's also about how much people are willing to pay to own a symbol of rarity. And this penny embodies that spirit perfectly. And as we bring all these threads together, we realize that the 1988 1 cent coin is a perfect case study in how mint errors and mistakes can elevate something common into something priceless, because every double die, every off-center strike, every transitional design is a reminder that perfection is not always what we want. Sometimes it's the flaws, the mistakes, the quirks that make things beautiful and desirable. And in the world of coin collecting, there is perhaps no greater proof of that than the 1988 penny. So whether you are a seasoned numismatist or someone just curious about why coins can be worth so much, remember that the next time you pick up a penny and look closely, you might just be holding a fortune. And before we wrap up, I want to thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through history, minting technology, human error, and collector passion. And if you enjoyed exploring the mystery and value of the 1988 1 cent coin with me today, then make sure to stay connected, because we bring you more stories like this, uncovering the hidden treasures in your pocket change. Last, today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, because in this video we are going to uncover the story of the 1990 61 cent coin, a coin that on the surface seems like just another ordinary penny that you might find in your change jar or tucked away in an old drawer. But in reality, this coin has a story that makes it worth an astonishing $7 million, all because of its unique errors, minting mistakes, and the possibilities that these errors bring to collectors and historians who understand just how rare and special these anomalies can be. And as we take this journey together, we'll explore why the 1990 60 penny has gained such legendary status, what specific mistakes were made in its production, how such errors could happen in a minting facility known for precision, and why these tiny details transform an ordinary cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure that is sought after by some of the most passionate coin collectors in the world. And to begin, we must first think about what makes a coin valuable in the first place, because not every old coin is worth a fortune, and not every rare date automatically guarantees millions. Instead, the true magic comes from a perfect storm of rarity, condition, historical context, and errors that make a particular coin stand out from the rest. And in the case of the 1990 61 cent, all these factors align in such a way that it has become legendary, starting with its origin at the Denver Mint, one of the most productive facilities in the United States, where billions of coins are struck every year. But even in a place with such careful oversight, mistakes can and do happen, and when they do, they sometimes create coins that defy expectation. And in this year, the 1990 60 penny became infamous for a set of errors ranging from double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, and even wrong planchet strikes, each of which makes the coin unique and in some cases astronomically valuable. Now imagine a coin that left the mint with a double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, his date, or the inscriptions like Liberty and I in God We Trust are doubled in such a way that the doubling is clear and visible even without magnification. This type of error is one of the most beloved by collectors because it tells a story of how the hubbing process went wrong, creating multiple impressions where there should only be one. And in the case of the 1990 60 penny, examples of strong doubled dies have been discovered where the doubling is dramatic, and collectors have paid extremely high sums for coins of this nature. But that is not the only type of error, because another fascinating mistake comes in the form of off-center strikes, where the coin blank or planchet was not seated properly in the press, and instead of a perfectly centered Lincoln portrait, you get a penny where part of the design is missing, leaving large blank fields of copper where no image should be, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, the value can skyrocket, with some 1990 60 pennies showing off-centering of 50% or more, making them incredibly rare and valuable. But perhaps even more intriguing are the broad strike errors, where the retaining collar that normally keeps the coin metal within the standard circular boundaries failed to engage, resulting in a coin that spreads out wider than usual, sometimes with distorted rims, and these errors catch the eye immediately because the coin just looks different, almost like it has been stretched or pulled outward. And then there are the wrong planchet errors, which are some of the rarest and most exciting of all, because occasionally a penny is struck not on a copper-plated zinc planchet as intended, but on a blank meant for another denomination, such as a dime, or a foreign coin planchet accidentally fed into the press, creating a hybrid coin that never should have existed. And when a 1990 60 penny was discovered struck on a dime planchet, weighing less and appearing silvery in color, collectors were absolutely stunned, and such coins have sold for 6 and 7 figures at major auctions. But that is only scratching the surface, because the Denver Mint in 1996 was under pressure to produce billions of coins quickly, and in that rush quality control was stretched thin, allowing a number of die cracks to pass into circulation, and these cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin's surface where the die itself had begun to fracture, can create spectacular visual effects, sometimes running across Lincoln's face, or through the date, or even splitting letters in the inscriptions, giving them names like the cut error, when large chunks of the die break away, leaving blobs of extra metal on the coin. And certain 1990 60 pennies have been documented with such dramatic die breaks that collectors treat them almost like pieces of abstract art, commanding thousands of dollars each. And when you combine all these possibilities, double dies, off-centers, broad strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, cuds, you begin to understand why the 1990 60 penny has become so famous, because while most examples are worth only face value, the few extraordinary mistakes that slip through the minting process transform them into legendary rarities, and it is these coins, in pristine condition with clear and dramatic errors, that have fetched millions at auctions, leading to the $7 million valuation for the finest known example. But why is there such demand? Why would someone pay so much for a penny? And the answer lies in human nature and the thrill of owning something unique. Because coin collectors, known as numismatists, are driven by the chase, the story, and the pride of owning a piece of history that no one else can duplicate. And when a coin has a combination of rarity, historical intrigue, and undeniable eye appeal, it becomes irresistible, and the 1990 60 penny checks all those boxes, with its ties to the Denver Mint's high production year, its range of spectacular errors, and the fact that surviving examples in high-grade condition are vanishingly rare, making them treasures for the ages. And as we consider the possibilities of how these errors occurred, we can imagine the atmosphere inside the mint, with massive presses running at high speed, workers monitoring countless machines, and the occasional slip of a die or misfeed of a planchet going unnoticed in the chaos. And while most errors are caught and destroyed, a lucky few slip into circulation, only to be discovered decades later by sharp-eyed collectors or even ordinary people checking their pocket change. And the thrill of finding a rare error coin in circulation is part of what makes this hobby so exciting, because it means that even today, someone could stumble upon a 1990 60 penny with $1 million mistake without even realizing it, and that possibility keeps collectors searching and keeps the legend of the 1990 60 penny alive. And so as we explore the many stories surrounding this coin, we can think about the double die obverse varieties that make Lincoln's face look shadowed, or the off-center strikes that reveal blank copper where design should be, or the wrong planchets that leave the coin looking like a dime in disguise, or the dramatic die cracks that scar the coin like battle wounds, each of these errors turning a humble cent into something extraordinary. And when preserved in mint-state condition, especially certified and graded by top services like PCGS or NGC, these coins achieve astronomical prices, and the very best of them have been valued at $7 million, making the 1990 60 penny one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. And as we wrap up this exploration, it's important to remember that while most coins you encounter will be ordinary, the extraordinary ones are out there, waiting to be found. And it's that sense of mystery and discovery that makes coin collecting so thrilling. So next time you come across a 1990 60 penny, take a closer look, because who knows, you might just be holding a piece of history worth millions. And with that, we invite you to continue exploring the incredible world of rare coins with us, because there are countless stories like this waiting to be uncovered. And if you enjoyed learning about the legendary 1990 60 penny and its astonishing $7 million value, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing journeys into the treasures of history and the secrets hiding in plain sight.